Watch the video too. So everyone's excited about that. Okay. It's okay. It's all good. Ladies and gentlemen, the air war. This is the largest air war in the history of the world, and will always be the largest air war in the history of the world. We will not have another air war like this again. Why?
Too violent.
Technology has changed. Drones.
Oh, we have missiles now.
Missiles. Okay. We don't have a need for this many planes. Okay. So, one of the major parts of this, guys, is remember there was no bombing from the air in World War I. Okay, so this is new. And so when Germany and Japan both started targeting civilian targets, like London, okay, or Beijing, or Peking, and so forth, a new warfare is here. So, you know what they say? What goes around
comes around.
Okay, so this time it's going to be Germany's turn to take it. Okay, and Japan's time is coming. So the U.S. Army has an Air Corps. It's called the Army Air Corps or Air Force. We don't have a separate branch. The U.S. Army Air Corps and the Royal Air Force will have a combined effort to attack Germany. Now, what would be great is if we could bomb them into submission, they quit, they surrender, Hitler gives up, and we don't have to invade. And millions of soldiers don't die. Now, the Germans tried this with the British. They tried to bomb the British into submission. Didn't work. No. And it's not going to work here either. But the goal is, if it doesn't work, to make life difficult for Germany to make war. So if we can bomb their factories, that make their planes, bomb their factories, that make their tanks, bomb their factories, that make their submarines, then they'll be easier to defeat. So the Royal Air Force, guys, is going to get the honor of bombing at night. And the U.S. Army Air Corps, both the 8th Army Air Force and the 12th Army Air Force, will bomb during the daylight hours. So the advantage to bombing at night is your enemy can't see you. They can't send their fighter planes up in the sky and shoot your bombers down. The bad part about bombing at night is you can't see your target as well, because the Germans employ blackouts as well. So the idea of bombing at night is to saturate an area with bombs. To make that saturation bombing more effective, you use incendiaries, which start fires, which expand the explosive nature of bombing. Okay, so this is a British Lancaster bomber. Okay, so if you go back here, top middle, British Lancaster, they started making those in 1942. It's roughly the same size as the B-24 or the B-17. Now you remember the B-17, it has a nickname. You need to know. Called the Flying what?
Fortress.
Fortress. Okay? Flying Fortress. What did he say?
That's a buttress. I think that's a ship that's floating on or something.
It's on
It's what?
Never mind.
They're probably right.
What is it?
It's on the dock. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
they
yeah.
right. They're right.
Flying Buttress.
Yeah, it's like walls or something, right?
Let's go with Fortress on the test.
Yeah.
Now, this is the B-29. It is the Flying Super Fortress. Okay, and after World War II, we'll make the Stratofortress, which is the B what? The B-29 is the Super Fortress. The Stratofortress B-52. Yes.
What are we on now?
Now we have the stealth bomb, which is the B-2.
Oh, B2 bomb.
That's the stealth bomb. The B-1 used to be based here in Wichita, McConnell. They've retired it. Yeah.
Looks like Mach 1.
How fast is that?
Is that the
Speed of
speed?
light.
600?
It's the speed of sound, right?
I think so. You can look it up. I don't know. I don't know what Mach. Okay, we'll talk about speed of sound in a minute. Now, this plane is one of hundreds of planes that will go on a sortie. A sortie is one mission to a target and back. Following me? Talk about a mission. It's a sortie. Okay, if you are an American pilot on an American crew on an American bomber and you survived 25 sorties, you got to come home. That's how dangerous it was. Okay. Now, this is not as dangerous because it's at night. Okay. Now, dropping its bombs here, the Lancaster, this is one plane dropping 2 sets of bombs. Just a freaking mouse, dude. No, I didn't want to click on the picture. Okay. So on the left here, you have a 1,070 4-pound thick incendiaries. Did I pass this around? Have some of you felt it? This is about 3 pounds. Or it's not going to blow up. Okay. Boom. It's about 3 pounds. So get a feel for what 4 pounds is. Some of you guys have probably used like little dumbbells for jazzercise or something like that. Right? Right? 1,170 of these guys. They're going to spread out and explode. They're like grenades and they help cause fires. Then it's going to drop 108 30 pounds. So if you've been in the weight room, you picked up the 30-pound dumbbell, you know what that means? It's heavy. Okay? So 108 of those, and those are also incendiaries. And then for good measure, a 4,000-pound cookie bomb, which is going to leave a large crater. So this is what the British are doing at night. Okay? And they started bombing Germany as early as 1941. We didn't get in until a little bit later than that, because obviously Pearl Harbor comes at the end of 41. Control yourself. Okay. Now, we good here on these notes? Okay. Okay.
What's the radius on this grenade right here?
I'd say about 10 feet.
If it's thrown at the door, I'm most likely safe.
Like right there?
Yes.
You're probably going to feel it. Oh, you're going to feel it. Well, you're probably going to die.
It's not like this 100 shoot. I feel like if you start, I jump on that thing.
Okay, that's a World War II pineapple grenade. Okay. Now, guys, these statistics will show you just how big the war was. Okay, now, the blue is the American Army Air Force. The red is the Royal Air Force. This is the tons of bombs dropped. It's 1.4 million tons for the Americans, 1.3 million tons for the British. This is in Europe. Okay, bomber sorties. So how many times our bombers went out? Look at this. 754,000 times. The British, 687,000 times. Bombers went out. Okay. Fighter sorties for the Americans, 990,000. For the British, over 1 million. claimed enemy aircraft destroyed. Americans claim we destroyed 35,783, the British 21,600. Now, this is probably the least accurate number on this chart. Pilots sometimes can be like fishermen. You ever catch a crappie? Did you see the size of that crappie? It was huge. Okay, huge. All right, now guys, in more serious note, bomber planes lost. So remember, like the B-17 had a 10-man crew. The United States lost 9,949 bombers. So remember when I was showing you the cemetery in Italy yesterday? All those bombing crews that they never found, okay? The British lost almost 12,000 bombers during the war. Fighter planes lost, the Americans 8,400, British 10,000. So how many people died being a pilot or on a flight crew of one of these bombers? For the Americans, 79,265. The British, 79,281. Eerily similar. How many planes did we have at our disposal? In March of 1945, we had 7,170 bombers at our disposal to use. Okay, we're lucky if we have 300 bombers today. We had 7,000. The British in April 45, almost 7,000. Okay, so can unleash a lot. How many fighter planes did we have? May of 45, we had 6,200. The British had 7,700 in August of 44. And how many people did it take to run this air war? For the Americans, 619,000 people. The British, 718. That's all the people to repair the planes, fuel the planes, put the bombs on the planes, fly the planes, man the planes. 700,000 people. Okay, this is a major effort. This is Hamburg, Germany. Okay, there were a lot of German cities that wound up looking like this after bombing raids. Okay, for months and months. So the Americans, as I said, we have the honor of bombing during the daylight hours. So here's a B-17. Okay. You can see it's dropping some pretty big bombs here. Those are 1,000-pound bombs. So say you were part of a crew that had to load these bombs onto a plane. How many guys in here is it going to take to lift a 1,000-pound bomb and put it on a plane? Yeah, maybe like just, two of you guys. Yeah, like 3,000 pounds. Okay. Now, a B-17 would typically carry 5 of these. 5 1,000-pound bombs. Okay, that's what you're seeing dropped here. Now, the good thing about bombing during the daylight hours is you can see your target. And guys, we're trying to get good information, good intelligence to find out where the factories are, so we can take out their factories. I don't know if I talked to you this class about the Norden bomb site. It was in the notes last section when we talked about the B-17 for the first time. The Norden bomb site. Well, let me throw this at you. Let's say you're flying in a Cessna, a little single-engine Cessna, okay? And you're at 8,000 feet. You got a bowling ball, okay? And you're going to try and drop that bowling ball on a building, say, the size of a Walmart at 8,000 feet. How accurate are you going to be? No, you're not going to be accurate. You got the wind speed, you got the speed of the aircraft. At 8,000 feet, you have to factor in the rotation of the Earth, okay? Now, these guys are dropping bombs from generally like 25,000 feet, okay? Now, you got all those factors, the altitude you're at and everything, okay? The Norden bomb site, again, this is why smart people are important, could take over the flying of the plane and tell the bombardier when to release the bombs over the target. Okay. It was highly classified, so each one of these planes was equipped with one of these bomb sights. When the plane landed, they would take it and put it under lock and key. Okay. Now, we lost a lot of these planes, so I'm sure the Germans got a hold of it and tried to reverse engineer it. Okay. But it was something that helped us be more accurate. The other problem with bombing during the daylight hours, guys, is that the Germans can see you. And when I showed you the Doolittle raid the other day from the movie Pearl Harbor, you saw those planes trying to fly through the flak, the anti-aircraft fire. Okay, so they're going to hit you with that. And then they're going to send their fighter planes into the sky to try and shoot down your bombers. In 1943, guys, 2 out of 3 flight crews did not make it back from their sortie. So very few men made it 25 missions. We lost 79,000 guys. Okay. So this is a great danger to be on one of these planes. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to put you in the cockpit here in a little bit and show you some actual footage from guys being over cities like Berlin. Okay, bombing Berlin. What we needed to achieve, guys, was air superiority over the continent. So we needed to draw the German fighter planes into the air so we could shoot them down. We're going to start using our bombers, catch, as bait. We're going to send our bombers into Germany to draw their planes, the German Luftwaffe, into the sky so we can destroy it in the air. That will help us achieve air superiority, giving us the upper hand. Now, in 1942 and 43, these bombers went over to Germany alone. They had no protection. Okay? But by 1944, guys, we had developed this plane. This is the P-51 Mustang. Now, the problem with these planes is they don't have a large fuel capacity, Mikey. They can't go with the planes all the way to Germany and make it back. And by the time we got to Italy and we started working our way up through Italy, we built air bases there and we could bomb Germany from there. But the planes these fighters couldn't go protect them. They didn't have the fuel capacity. So they started building these with larger fuel tanks and actually put disposable tanks under the wings. And so they would use those disposable tanks to get them to Germany, and then the rest of their tank to get back from Germany. And they would escort our bombers while they were making their bombing runs. So we send the bombers over as bait. German Air Force comes into the skies with their Messerschmitts, and these guys show up. Okay? These guys were like angels for the bombing crews to protect them. Okay? Now, how many guys had Mrs. Gordon for world history? So you guys remember when I came in and introduced the movie Tuskegee Airmen? Okay? These guys, the Tuskegee Airmen, who, first of all, it was really hard for them to even, get into the Air Force. Okay? Then they got trained. And then they put them in North Africa and didn't give them anything to do. By 1944, when we're running all these bombing runs, we need planes to protect our bombers. And so they became known as the Red Tails. They're the 302nd, okay, fighter squadron. And the African-American pilots, the black pilots, they painted the tails of their planes red. They were the Red Tails, okay? And guess what? They brought home their bombers. And so you had white bombing squad leaders requesting the black pilots to go with them. Now, they didn't know they were black. Think they found out they were black? They would not want them to go with them? No, because the Red Tails guys had a great record of bringing the bombers home. And these guys wanted to get home. Okay? So, it's kind of a cool story. This is a tough story. Okay? So, if you had somebody in your family or you knew somebody, you read about somebody that was a tail gunner, or a co-pilot or a pilot on a B-17 in Europe, and they're still alive, they survived the war, they were lucky or blessed. Okay, I tell you about this movie, The Memphis Belle. Okay, 25th Mission. Okay, great movie. All right, good on these notes. Now, I took these pictures, probably about 19 years ago. Okay, because that's my son Jack. He's 4 there, I think. Okay, they had the air show out at Jabbar Airport. I live on Woodlawn. Jabbar is on Webb Road. I think he was still on training wheels. We rode our bikes 2 miles there, 2 miles back, uphill on the way in the summer. It was hot. He was sweating some bullets. But this is a beautiful aircraft. Now this B-17, guys, was made in 1945. You can see it's got extra guns over here. Okay, I mean, like, this thing's got guns everywhere. Okay, it is a flying fortress. Okay, so the 45 model was better than the 42 model for sure. They learned, they adjusted, they adapted. Okay. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and talk about these, and then I'm just going to finish the class with videos. Okay. Hauserman, you ever been to the Kansas Cosmosphere? What? How many of you guys been to the Cosmosphere? Yeah. It's a big space museum.
What are some of the things?
Huh?
What are some of the things?
They got replicas of the V1 and the V2 rocket in there. They've got in the lobby. They've got a Firefox. What's that plane called? The SR-71.
They got paper airplane throwing station. Yeah.
That might be the
That's the-
exploration place. Yeah.
I think they do.
Do they maybe there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like an aisle looking
Yeah.
thing with a ring. Go through the hoops and stuff.
They got. All right, I know they got a place to.
It wouldn't surprise me. Gotcha. Exploration place. No. Kansas Cosmosphere. Okay. You guys are messing with me. Now, hey, German engineering. Okay, the V1, this one over here is a flying bomb with a jet pulse engine. So jet technology, which my wife was relying on today, been in Canada all week. She drove back to Minot in North Dakota. Supposed to fly 7 a.m. flight to Denver to Wichita. I look up, I follow my wife on, find my iPhone thing, app, checking on where my wife is. And she's at some regional airport in Northwest Nebraska. And I'm like, I know you didn't have a layover at this regional small airport. They got diverted today. She's 465 miles from home. They've got a flight coming in at leaving at 5, I guess, but something went wrong with the plane. So they landed. Yeah. Who what? It went pretty well. So she hasn't met some of these people she's been in meetings with on the phone and stuff. And she said meeting them in person was good because my wife knows what she's doing and these people don't. And so she said being in person was helpful. Like they were nice and, they listened. Because my wife has done a lot of this work before. She knows how to do it. They haven't. So she said it went well. As far as Canada goes, the weather was pretty nice this week. They did get some snow yesterday, but not a ton. Canada. All right, back to the V1 flying rocket, jet pulse engine. Okay, this thing was launched off of ramps. So remember, the Germans were in France, so they're going to launch these on ramps across the English Channel and hit Britain. Now, guys, these are dumb weapons. The Germans can't target a tank or a factory with this. This thing is going to go about 500 miles per hour, go across the English Channel, fly at a fairly low altitude, a couple thousand feet. And when it runs out of fuel, it's just going to fall out of the sky. So you would hear these things buzzing across the sky, very loud, and then it got quiet. And then there's like a 30-second delay, and then boom. So you had no idea where these were going to land. Now, the British were able to shoot down or knock down about half of the 8,000 of these that were fired at London. These served no military purpose. They were just weapons of terror. And they killed a lot of Britons. Okay? Now, in this case, the Spitfire could fly almost 500 miles an hour by then. And so if you went into a dive, you could get going as fast as one of these flying bombs, fly your Spitfire up next to it, and take the wing of your plane and hit the wing of the V1, sending it into a spin into the English Channel before it got to England. That takes some, yeah, you got to have some guiones right there, okay? Now, they could also shoot at them with their planes, okay? And they could shoot at them from the ground. I'll show you some video of that later, okay? The V2 rocket was developed by the top German rocket scientist. Does anybody in here know his name? Werner von Braun. Nice. Okay. Now, this is the same technology, guys, that we're going to use to put a man on the moon. In fact, we're going to use Werner von Braun to help put a man on the moon. Guys, when the war is over, there's an operation called Operation Paperclip to try and capture as many German scientists as we can because they have better technology than we do. And so we capture Werner von Braun and we bring him here. We don't put him in jail. We put him to work for a new organization called NASA. Okay? And he helps us put a man on the moon. So this V2 rocket travels faster than the speed of sound. So you don't hear it coming. And it carries a payload of 2,000 pounds. This carries a payload of 1,000 pounds. Okay. So these were very devastating to London and killed a lot of people. Okay, but it didn't serve any type of military purpose. Now, once we land on D-Day in France and we start taking over France, they're going to lose their launch ramps and that sort of thing. They're not. These will become far and few between after we land in France. Okay, so this goes on for about a year. These V1s and V2. Okay, and I'll show you some video of that later. So the British called the V1s the doodlebugs, and this is one that's ran out of fuel, falls from the sky, and then you can see the explosion. This is the after effect of one of the V2s that hit a Woolworth department store in London, killed a bunch of people. Okay, that's a pretty big explosion there. Okay, and they had these launching pads. Okay, so there's a ton of good stuff on YouTube when it comes to these V1 and V2 rockets. So I want to show you some video. You know how the video we watched yesterday, Richard Tregaskis was the guy, he got wounded. The guy they're going to use here is, he wants to be an author, so he keeps a journal. And so a lot of the words come from this guy that's keeping a journal that's a co-pilot on a B-17. And so that's used as part of the narration for this. So you can kind of get inside the head of somebody that was on one of these bombers, okay? All right, so when we get back from Thanksgiving, get back from Christmas, it'll be government class. How many of you guys are in my government class? All right. Roberto? Eric? You are? Get back from Thanksgiving, D-Day. Okay, June 6, 1944.